Thank you so much for joining us today on Coffee With. We are happy to be at Highway 61 Coffee House on Washington Street, and I have a very special guest today, which most of you will recognize by now, and that is Dr. Elizabeth Swinford, our new superintendent of Vicksburg Warren School District, and I'm so glad that you came to have coffee with me today. And when I called you and asked you to come, I said, guess what I want to talk about, Liz? And you said,
reading.
Reading! Everybody's getting tired of hearing me talk about reading, but we're not going to stop talking about it, are we?
Not at all.
You and I are in a book club together.
Yes.
And, well, now, as of about 2 weeks ago, we have a common e-book. You have a Nook.
I have a Nook.
And I have a Kindle. And you've had yours, what, a couple of months?
Well, a couple of months. Yeah, like a month.
Well, tell me about your Nook.
I love it. I'm enjoying it because it's so much easier to just download a book, read it, don't need extra light, can take it everywhere. It's easier to carry, don't have to worry about passing pages. I just took a trip to Boston and back to observe some literacy programs, and it was so nice to sit on the plane and just push a button to pass the pages instead of bothering everyone next to me by passing pages.
Exactly.
So it's just so wonderful. I don't know if it's the newness, but it's so unique, versatile, and efficient.
The wave of the future.
Absolutely.
For sure. I just got mine a couple weeks ago, and I just got back from a trip, and oh my goodness, it's just, you know, I slipped it in my purse, and it's great to read in bed, and anywhere you can go that's Wi-Fi, you can get more books if you run out, although I downloaded so many, I'm sure that's not going to happen anytime soon. But I wanted to tell you what I did with my Kindle when I got it. And I texted you the day that I did this because I was so excited I couldn't stand it. I volunteer out at Warrenton Elementary, and I took it with me out to the kindergarten class. And of course, they have no clue what this is. But I was so excited to be able to introduce them to this Kindle because one day they will be having, not what we have, but they'll have some version of this. And I let each one of them come up. And I think there's 16 children in that class, and I'll let each one of them come up, and I let them turn it off and on, and I'll let them turn the pages, and I would say, every book that's ever been written, you can read on this little bitty thing right here. Isn't that amazing? And within just a few minutes, every time I would say that to the child, all the other kids would go, it's amazing, Miss Robinson. They think my last name is Robinson. And it was so much fun. And it made me think about your comment that although our school libraries are good and we need history and we need those things, we need some media centers.
Absolutely.
And how do you see that evolving?
I think that, and I'm sorry, I'm a little personal. I think that the way that's going to happen is as new curriculums come about for education, we also need to modernize how we provide books also for kids. And that's a long-term process thinking that we're already starting to have conversations on. I don't know if you're aware the Common Core Standards, Mississippi adopted those, and the implementation is 2012. Already the Mississippi Department of Education is looking at what books align with that brand new framework of curriculum. We're kind of thinking that would be a great time to start experimenting with Kindles or Nooks. It really makes it easier for kids to carry around instead of those heavy backpacks. 30, 40, 50 pounds of books that these kids are carrying on their back. I think that technology takes us such a long way. And
well, it's going to be it is their world.
It's their future.
It is their world, right.
Well, one thing that I always say is that we're preparing kids today for a future that we don't know what it's going to look like.
That's right.
We can't do it with the technology of the 19th century or 20th century. We're already one decade into the 21st century. We got to prepare them with what we have available right now because we don't know what the future is going to look like. And if they don't even master the technology of today for reading as well as other aspects of their life, how are they going to be successful in the future?
Well, let's talk about the Real People Read program. It's an initiative that you implemented last fall.
Yes.
I'm really interested about how you came up with that idea because, you know, the light bulb came on for me. I've shared that with you before. So talk to me a little bit about that.
One of the things upon arriving here in Vicksburg Warren School District that I did was to visit all schools. I made it my business to visit the majority of the schools. I have to say the majority because there was one school that every time I try to get to it, I always thought I passed it or I was lost. I actually never drove enough to get there. That was Redwood Elementary. I've said that story publicly. I didn't get to Redwood until later in the fall. But I went to my schools, and what I did was walk into the classrooms, visit with teachers, observe. I wasn't assessing them. I was looking at classroom, what they had available, walk through the libraries, and I noticed that our collections they're rich, but they're not really where they need to be. So I started talking to some of the librarians, I started talking to some of the teachers, and finally I took my conversations to kids, and I thought, because I'm such an avid reader, I love to read, so I thought I asked the kids, I said, so do you like reading? And of course they're all going to, they want to be complacent to the superintendent, so they would say, yes, we love to read. And I said, how many books do you have at home? And it just broke my heart, Robin, to hear, well, maybe one. And then some of them would say, well, I have one, but my little brother broke it or tore a page out, or it's missing the cover, or, and it was really sad, but it was an eye-opener for me. And I thought, you know what, I need time to assess what's going on in this district and develop a long-term plan. But in the short term, I need to address collections, library, literacy, especially on a child that likes to read and can't do it because they don't have the access at home. So that's where I thought, reading is a basic skill. It's not a class you take. It's a basic skill. We need it for everything. Everything in life will require you to read.
Absolutely.
So with that in mind, I thought, real people read. And I thought, that's exactly what I'm going to call this initiative. And that's how Real People Read emerged, out of the need of identifying myself with children, as well as community members. And then looking at our libraries. And I wanted to start the initiative small, but I know people like you have taken it in a whole brand new direction, involving more of the community members that I thought would ever get involved for year one, which is wonderful, and thank you so much for that support. Because for the first year, I really envision it as, let's just, bring a couple of people, read into the classrooms so the kids could see real people reading to them. Little did I imagine to see schools being adopted by avid readers that truly are nurturing and encouraging the children to read. So it's already, just year one, has not only met but exceeded my expectations of what this program can accomplish.
Well, one of the things that you said to me when you and I talked about this months ago, that is when the light switch flipped on in my head. And that's when you said what you just said, and that is that reading is not a course you sign up for, it's a way of life. And that next Wednesday when I went out to Warrenton Elementary and sat in that chair and looked at those little 5-year-old faces, I just couldn't help but wonder how sparking that interest in reading could literally change the course of somebody's life.
Absolutely.
Because if they can't read, or if they can't read well, we know what's going to happen to them. We know statistically what will happen to these children. Right. And it's so important, it's hard really even to put words to. Now, we did have a fun event for Dr. Seuss's birthday, and your schools were very involved and did a lot of things, and we had different volunteers going to a lot of different schools. And I interviewed somebody earlier that I think she was at Sherman Avenue, and she said, we had way more fun than the kids did. And it was. And you were at Bovina, and you were at a lot of the schools.
And Vicksburg Intermediate and a few other schools.
Yeah, you make
wearing my Dr. Seuss hat.
Yes.
And reading to the children.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We had a lot of real people reading that day, and it was just, and that is, I heard Lonnie Moore from the Franklin Covey organization talk about the leader in me, and he talks about modeling and emulating the behaviors that we want, and that's exactly what we're talking about. We go out there and get excited about it. We can't expect anything but for the children to be excited about it and to be who we are, and that is why we have to be so invested in this. Because if we don't invest in those children, we're not investing in our future.
That's exactly right. That's exactly how I feel about it. And again, we're not investing in their futures either.
That's right.
It's a necessary skill, as you know. Read a bill. Make sure they're not getting caught on a contract. I mean, reading and understanding what they read is not only a fun part of life, it's a necessary part.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Now, you have some programs that you're working on for the summer. Tell me about that.
Yes. We have a couple of, not only programs for the summer, we also have some training programs for teachers as well, in increasing literacy. But some of the things that we're looking at this summer is like a summer book club for children that we're going to encourage them to read. Scholastic. We have a partnership with Scholastic. We're purchasing some of the collections from Scholastic. The good part about Scholastic is that their books come divided by lexiles, which is the reading levels, of the children. So we can get them some books that are at their level and challenging of the next level, so that when they come back in August, they're avid readers. We want to make sure that they don't lose anything over the summer. So we're working with different companies right now in order to be able to secure some books for the kids, donated. And that's where I actually see Real People going. I think that Real People Read hopefully will evolve into a type of program in which this entire community will continue giving to the schools, enrich the collections, because through enrichment of those collections, we're actually enriching the lives of kids. Do you know how much the kids are learning from stories, from the books that people are reading to them? They're actually acquiring knowledge that will help them not only to have fun and have an understanding of where they're going, but understand also future social studies projects, literacy projects, and things like that. So we're just enriching their lives so vividly.
I was talking with Linda Turner, who is a retired, I believe she's a retired teacher from Dana Road, and she is now coordinating a program between Crawford Street United Methodist Church and Dana Road, which I'm sure you're aware of this program. I just, as we sat here and talked about that, it was actually very moving to me to see. It's a church, but I look at it really as part of the business community, stepping forward in such a huge way.
Yes.
And that is volunteers going out to read, but that program is really designed for the children to read back to them, which was an interesting thing for me. I just think about going out and reading to the kids, but I understand how that also develops a lot of reading skills and being able to speak out loud and do a lot. It really develops a lot of different skills for those children.
Absolutely. When they have to read the book, also the capability of understanding what they're reading, comprehension, because hopefully they'll have a conversation about it at the end. Absolutely. It's a very enriching program that they're developing. I'm looking forward to seeing the success of that program.
And really hoping to see it spread to other businesses and churches and other organizations throughout the Vicksburg area.
Absolutely.
So, what have I not asked you about today that you just want to be sure you're going to talk about before we leave here?
Well, actually, you covered most of anything as it comes to literacy. But I would like to be able to point out that we do have, some pockets of schools that still have not necessarily been adopted or visited, mainly my middle schools and high schools. And there's such a wealth there as well. I mean, children, even if we don't go to read to them, but to share our stories, read a book, go and talk to the children about that real life book, about that nonfiction piece. I mean, I think that will spark the interest. So there are things that we can still do also with middle and high school, and we have to continue. Hopefully we'll continue hitting this community, and at some point in time we'll get some really good folks that would want to go and read also to my middle schools and high schools, because they're real people too.
That's right, and we have a lot of those people in Vicksburg.
Absolutely.
I know that, we've seen people stepping up to the plate, beyond the expectations.
Absolutely.
And you and I have had that discussion as well, and we know that will only continue. It can only breed more people doing great things in our community. I believe in my heart that we were blessed by your coming here, that you were led here for a specific reason, presumably for you as well as for us. And it is truly our pleasure and privilege to have you and your husband Darren and your sweet mama as part of our Vicksburg family. And we thank you so much for the leadership that you're giving to our school district.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming and having coffee with me today.
Thank you, and thank the Vicksburg community for embracing us as well and never making us feel like outsiders.
That's what Vicksburg's all about.
Absolutely.
Thank you.